So a lot to talk about with you, including it's been signed into law, Governor Gretchen Whitmer signing gun legislation known as red flag laws. Plus a push for prison reform in Lansing that's interesting, but it's controversial. Could cut down on some of the amount of time people spend behind bars. So let's start with red flag laws, Charlie. It's something we have discussed with Charlie many times. How does it work, first of all?
Yeah, well, it is law right now, so the finished version of it will take effect next year. So it's not going to do it right now. Right now, the court administration, the Supreme Court, is going to approve a form so people can fill out if you believe your family member, ex-spouse, current dating relationship, etc., is a danger to themselves or others, and they have a gun. That's essentially what the red flag laws mean. It's an idea for law enforcement to take the guns away from people that probably should not have them. The concept is fantastic. Everyone agrees. There's no question about it. What is a little bit controversial is how does it get enforced? So if I think my spouse, for the sake of argument, should not have a gun because of a mental issue or whatever, I'll fill out the form. I will submit it to a judge. Then the judge will do one of two things. If the judge believes just by reading the form that the judge should issue an order right then and there, the judge can sign it, give it to the police. The police will go to my spouse's house or my friend or my relative, not friend, relative, and then the police will take the guns from the house.
Can I stop you right there?
Yes.
What does law enforcement say about that? Because it feels like that could be a potentially dangerous situation for them.
They are, some, not all, but some object to it. And in particular, the Livingston County Sheriff saying they're not going to enforce it because they believe the law is unconstitutional. Dana Nessel, when the governor signed the bill, said if a local police department will not enforce a signed red flag order from a judge, the Attorney General will fine some law enforcement to go get those guns. So it is going to be a little controversial issue.
You said they will find some other law
They're going to find some
to go and get the gun.
To go and get the gun. State police,
They're not
likely
state fine.
No, not fine. No. They will get someone.
They'll get somebody.
They'll get someone. So if a local sheriff doesn't enforce the order, the Attorney General probably will get the state police to do it. I'm assuming, but I don't know.
It sounds complicated with red tape, working through the court system, and then sending law enforcement who's already burdened with so many other things.
They are.
But we do know that these red flag laws are working in other states to some extent.
I think this
reducing
is a very
suicides and perhaps other gun violence.
I think the issue when they had those is because it's a prevention of suicide. I think that was the main reason. And what's interesting too is, as I understand the law, the judges have to act within 24 hours, as do the police. So this is not something that's going to linger around for a while. And then these laws, the order's good for a year. Now, there can be a hearing where the person who just lost his or her gun can go to court and challenge the order. So there's a lot of judicial process that's going to take over.
Is there an investigation when somebody fills out a form saying, I think Chachi should not have a gun?
No.
Joni writes the form.
No.
There's no investigation.
So that's a controversial part too, because if you say, oh, my ex-husband or my ex-wife is crazy, go get his gun.
Right.
No investigation.
There's no investigation.
You also said friend. If you can't report a friend.
It's not friend. No. It's a dating relationship, a spouse, a formal spouse, a family member, a police officer, or mental health professional. So friend doesn't work.
All right.
So that is a big deal. We've had PPO laws in effect for many, many years.
Personal protection order.
Personal protection order. So if a neighbor is being upset or threatening or whatever, I can basically fill out a form, take it to a judge, and if a judge signs it, the judge will issue a PPO, and then that order is served on the bad person, and they have to give up their guns.
I got one more quick question.
Yeah.
Any ramifications for Livingston for saying, is that legal? Can he go, well, I'm not going to enforce that law? That's like picking and choosing the laws you're going to enforce, and you're literally called law enforcement. Like, that's your job.
That's your job. But if this is politics now, so I'm assuming that's a Republican saying we're not going to enforce it. But remember the abortion law, when the abortion law in Michigan was enacted, when the Supreme Court did away with Roe versus Wade.
So you can
we had a law that said abortions are illegal. Many people said we're not going to enforce those. So I'm not giving you an answer to the question. There's no discretion.
Okay.
So,
I know we're wrapping up, but in the case of the MSU shooter, that would have had to have been the dad
That could do it.
The red flag law, but
Yes.
the neighbors who heard shootings forever couldn't do anything.
Wow.
Not the way I read the law.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right. Not the way I read the law.
We'll be right back. When we come back,
Clarification.
we'll talk about credit for in prison.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Okay, we have a couple things we want to get into. One of them, Michigan Supreme Court taking up a case about police using drones to gather evidence without a search warrant. And also we want to talk about people getting credit for good behavior.
Good behavior, felons,
Yeah, behind bars. So why don't we do the prison topic first?
So if you're sentenced in Michigan you're a felon, you get sentenced, you do not get credit for good time. We eliminated good time
What's
in
good
Michigan.
time?
Good time means you get a reduction of your sentence if you're good in prison.
Yeah.
You're either good, you take classes, you're
good prisoner,
just
good
all around
citizen.
good. So you get reductions off your sentence. Federal system has it, many states have it, Michigan doesn't. We eliminated good time back in 1998. Okay, some people say
why would you eliminate that?
under the truth in sentencing law, because a lot of people said that we wanted to be tough on crime.
Okay.
So if you get sentenced today, let's say the maximum sentence is 10 years, and you get sentenced to 3 years. Your sentence in Michigan, all these stories that we do, the sentences are always, in my example, 3 to 10 years. What does that mean? It means you must do 3 years, mandatory, you're not getting out, and then you go to a parole board, which may let you out, may not.
Okay.
So you will be out after 10 years. So a lot of people say that that's not right, and that doesn't give any incentives to prisoners to be good.
Right.
Besides the fact that there is a cost factor. It costs about the same to keep someone in prison for 1 year as it does to send them to the University of Michigan. It's about the same cost.
Wow,
so
man.
a lot of people say, hey, wait a minute, let's give incentives to prisoners and let's make them, if they need a GED, if they need school, whatever. So let's do that. And
that one really hit you. That stat really hit you, doesn't
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And Michigan has a tendency to keep people in prison longer than just about any other state.
So now somebody is trying to bring back
So
good
now
time.
there's a bill in the legislature that's going to reinstitute good time.
Yeah.
And I think there probably will be some, it's just controversial, I agree. But the real controversial one is that if you're under 18, under 19 actually, and you're convicted of even a life sentence, you may only do 10 years and then you'll be eligible for parole. We're going to do away with life in prison for minors.
Okay.
Do away with it.
All right.
Like Ethan Crumley, for example. That could apply to him.
All
So
right.
that's very controversial. Next.
And also your perspective changes depending on if you're the victim of one of these,
Yes, it does.
Well, if
right?
you're a victim, you don't want these people out. I mean,
it's
they
hard
say too
to-
bad.
yeah.
And a lot of people say that.
Let's talk about this drone case going to the Michigan Supreme Court.
Very interesting case. Michigan Supreme Court just took this case. So what happened basically was in Long Lake Township, which I don't even know where it's at. It's a little tiny township somewhere. This couple owns about 5 acres. Apparently for many years, they were repairing cars. They had a whole bunch of junk on their property. And so what happened was the cops sent a drone, which looked above their fencing and found a bunch of junk, cars, whatever, and they issued a zoning violation. But they defended the case saying, hey, wait a minute, I have a right to privacy. What? I have a right, you can't use a drone to basically spy in my house.
Right.
You can't?
Well, the Court of Appeals said no, but it's now the Supreme Court is going to say that. So the issue is, can the cops use a drone to spy in your house without a search warrant? There's no search warrants here. And then that evidence that they get, can they use it against you?
But this was a fenced-in yard.
Yeah, I think
Not so much looking in the windows.
But
No, you gotta go
a
zone.
drone could look in a window.
I'm not
zone?
some
Yes.
constitutional
Law expert?
law professor, but it feels unconstitutional.
Feels wrong.
It feels that there's some privacy issues. Do we have a right
What
to
if
privacy?
the cops are standing there and they can see through the fence and see this stuff?
Get a warrant.
What's the difference?
Get a search warrant. That there's
If you're
evidence of a
laying out,
crime.
if you're naked in your fenced-in backyard,
As I tend to do.
as you like to
on a summer
enjoy,
day. Yeah.
Is that illegal?
I think that's public indecency. If you put a drone and look over the fence.
Well, that's not right.
So
But is it illegal is my
so,
question.
So a lot of time, this is a great example of where the law takes a long time to catch up to the
Right.
technology.
Yeah, so
We've been
true.
using
It does.
zones, the cops
Drones.
use zones,
Yeah.
fantastic stuff, but the laws haven't caught up. And I think this is going to be a case that a lot of people are going to watch.
Charlie, what's coming up tonight?
We're going to talk about red flag laws as well. We've got a number of people here, some prosecutors and some people that like the red flag laws. Some people do not like the red flag laws. We'll talk a lot about that. That'll start at 10:30 tonight.